getting up milking cows at 2:30 in the morning.
The grasses are down and there's not a whole lot to eat.
Am I going to have grass to feed the animals? What am I going to do then?
Because with him being a one-man show.
Just in my blood. Currently I'm a one-man show. It's just like, you know, why do some people like making music? Why do some people like doing other things? It's just what's enjoyable to me. You know, I've got friends that like to do a lot of other things as their hobbies, and I do this. You know, whether it would be as my full-time employment or as a hobby, I would be doing something dealing with farming. Hey, sweetie. And currently I'm a one-man show with hopes to grow to eventually have an employee or two around, but you know, I can set my own schedule. I can do as I please. Like if I need to help take care of the kids, I can rearrange my schedule, and my job is here. I'm not going anywhere else. I can be here. I can take care of things. Plus having my kids be out here, my wife can be out here and help me. You know, so I can have a nice family environment plus my own freedom. That's the magnesium. It's the very dusty one, so we'll kind of coat it down with salt afterwards. And then I'll take about 50 pounds out to the cows today, so I'll have it for a few days. I don't use any animal-based sources, so everything's vegetable-based. Except for these minerals, it kind of helps to enhance their digestion just a little bit. At one time I thought maybe I stayed with the farm just because it was familiar, you know, when I got out of college. But no, that's just my interest. I don't like sitting on a tractor. I'd rather walk across the pastures and things like that than sit on a tractor. Whereas I have friends who are farmers who love to sit on a tractor 12 hours. To me, that's like driving a transfer truck for 12 hours. It's not a whole lot of fun to me. It wouldn't seem like it'd be a whole lot of fun to me. The main one was trying to go too large with the number of beef cattle. That was the one risk I decided to try, and that failed. And I'd say Mother Nature put me to the test on that one when we had the drought of 2007. When the drought started in the fall of 2006, I was quickly informed by Mother Nature that I had too many animals. There wasn't enough grass, I didn't have enough hay, and that whole concept of going big failed miserably. And bought a lot of hay. And 2007 was a year, it was a make it or break it for me, and it was, or I should say, more of a do or die. And it's either do something different or die.
That summer we had that horrible drought. First year of farming was 2007, and that almost put him under.
Stacy's a good manager, very good manager of her time, and if I had her ability more so, I would be much more productive, because that is the bottom line, is managing myself and my time to be productive, and I am terrible at it. I'm real bad about seeing these jobs that need to be done, and everything from trivial stuff, just let's say cleaning up trivial stuff, to taking care of the animals, to, all right, let's go fix this fence or whatever. You know, I see these jobs that need to be done, but I'm bad about getting in at the house later in the evening and looking at my supposed to-do list and like, oh, I know I was supposed to have done that, or that would have been more of a priority than other things. And so it's a work in progress, but I know my management of myself is not good. It's my weak point. And I'm terrible at managing myself. Terrible.
I just kind of do whatever I see needs to be done. I'm just kind of the fill-in person a little bit.
She is pretty amazing. She gets a lot done. She has her own full-time job as an attorney. Takes care of the kids very well, including her daughter Shayla, who's a Down's child with a lot of special needs. And she spends a lot of time training nannies and going to physical therapies, and then somehow or another she managed to fill the gap in for me once in a while. So she's very organized. I don't know how she does that. High school. We're high school sweethearts. I was a senior and she was a sophomore, and we were high school sweethearts, and went our separate ways after I graduated, but that didn't last very long. So, matter of fact, about a summer, and then we started dating again, and been together ever since.
Didn't even get my hair dried this morning. Yeah.
She's a perfect opposite for me. I'm more independent, and she's more outspoken, and she'll, she is, whereas I may be a little more reclusive, and she's more outgoing. And I think when you have opposites like that, it works very well. Where she's strong, I'm weak, and where I'm strong, she's weak.
Oban and McAllen are our two bulls here on the farm. We named Oban and McAllen after two different single malt Scotch brands. It's very hard when you're naming cows to try to come up with one very manly names, like Bessie, and two, something unique that you're going to remember.
One of the things I did was when we left the farm to go to Michigan. That was probably my big sacrifice, is actually leaving the farm and leaving the farm environment and moving up there when she got accepted to Cooley Law School. And that was a big change, going from me always living out in the country to going into living in an apartment in Lansing, Michigan. Although I lived in an apartment when I was in college, but I always came home on the weekends to the farm. We also have an agreement that we won't ever milk cows here again, just because of the time's sake. Right, we have more flexibility now, especially with the young kids, not to get into something that's going to overwhelm us that in depth.
When we came back onto the farm, Roland and I had talked about trying to keep things simple, because he pretty much has to be a one-man show. Farming, you just, and not that farmers ever got rich, but it's very difficult to try to make a living, especially when you don't own everything and we're leasing everything. So as we talked, we felt like it was a lot like the stock market.
She was with me when we were dairy farming, and when I'd work, it was 15-hour days, 12, 15-hour days all the time. She would get very bored and frustrated and things like that. So the way she handled it was she just took on more jobs, and she worked 2 jobs for a long time. But no, she did not. She always had dreams of going to living in the city somewhere and being very content with that, and I never did. But it's interesting. People change. More she was around the farm, got a chance to be around the farm, especially now. We spent 12 years living in town between Lansing, Michigan, and Roanoke, Virginia, and that was fine. We went that side, but once we come back, and especially having 2 kids now, she's very happy having the kids here. Being in the farmer environment and being out here and not being in town, and plenty of space to roam and things like that. So, but initially, no, and she still doesn't have a desire herself to be a farmer.
Just kick her away. She's very annoying. I don't like big dogs. Polly, go. Go.
I found in the town, in the city, I had to go and find things to keep me from being physically frustrated. Like either we tried a gym for a while, and I said that wasn't much fun for me. And then, I actually got into more bike riding. Used to do a lot of bike riding here when I was younger, and started finding trails and things like that. Even tried golf, but it was just like, okay, we gotta physically do something. And I have no shortage of doing physical things around here. One thing that's always bugged me was seeing land being developed, and can't really say why. It's just, it always has. I know my parents have had influence on that, but when I see a tract of farm ground, being developed, whether it's a housing development or a business buys it and put it on there, I know it'll never be back into farming. Right now, it's, I'm not going to sit here and say that we make lots of money, because we don't. That's why Stacey and I both still work. And although Stacey will continue to work, I would eventually like to be this is my full-time and only job.